It is 5:02. I will call to order this Board of Selectmen, Town of Woodbridge special meeting for October 29th. And first item on the agenda is motor vehicle schedule municipal option review. And I'd like to ask our town assessor, Marcia Benno, to please join us, and we'll have a quick discussion on that, please. Just because the microphone will help a little bit for people who are listening in, who may be listening in. Hi. So Marcia will give a bit better explanation or a more in-depth explanation, but the state legislation last year changed the way to depreciate motor vehicles to a different method than they had been using previously, where they just went to a straight depreciation schedule, model, matrix, whatever you want to call it. That starts at 85% after year one and then tapers down from there. You had some material in your should have some material in your packet on that, and they also, because of the impact that had on a number of municipalities, particularly larger municipalities, where it decreased their grand list significantly. In our case, it decreased, I think, Marcia,
about 10-11%.
Yeah, it was about $80,000.
10 or 11% of the motor vehicle grand list, not the
right.
total.
Mm-hmm. So the state legislature provided an option for municipalities to consider increasing that schedule by 5% per
Year, right.
year. So we have to determine whether that's something we would like to do, and if we do, we have to follow the process in order to get that done. So to that end, wanted Marcia to be here to see if you had any questions on it, but basically bottom line, what it boils down to, and keep me honest here, Marcia, we can raise the depreciation, or we can increase the rate that we use for depreciation, which means the person with a motor vehicle would pay more by 5%. And the impact from our perspective would mean that we would collect an additional $179,000 in tax revenue if we were to opt to do what the state is saying we can do. It starts at 85% now. It would start at 90% if we wanted to take that option.
Right.
Is there anything else you can add, or?
Well, those are based on the 2023 versus 2024 grand list.
Mm-hmm.
So the total dollar amount would be different, but correct in saying the state statute says the motor vehicle starts at 85% good of MSRP down to the 20 years, and then it can't be any less than 500. Then, due to the influx of leaders of the towns to the legislature, because it was late already, they said, well, if the municipality wants to bring it up to the 90%, which was originally introduced at the legislature, that they can do that through the vote of their legislative body and through an ordinance. So that would start off a new car at 90% good versus 85% good. And then it is then assessed 70%, the regular 70%, and then multiplied by the mill rate to come up with the tax.
Or do we have any sense for what the implication was in terms of when the initial change took place? In other words, what we were doing before and then what happened? So the comparison you gave was specifically the before and after.
Right, to this one, right.
Okay.
I don't know exactly what, I didn't run those figures of what had happened when they had gone from average retail value to MSRP.
Mm-hmm.
That, I think, I may have it in a past meeting notes, but I
Right.
didn't bring those with me.
But was the impact just less?
Some of them were more, some of them were less. The newer cars were less because the selling price based on average retail was greater than the MSRP. So all those newer cars, yes, you did have a decrease once they shifted to the MSRP, and and then on top of that, decrease going down to the 85% had a big impact on a lot of municipalities.
So this, if I understand it, is an attempt to collect more money.
It's not an effort to collect more money, it's an option that the municipalities have in order to collect more money. So we're not,
And
there's
it
not
would be
a
effective for which,
27 budget year.
for 2027? And it would only impact people with new cars?
No,
Or
it
this
would
would be applied to every?
Impact everyone's
So it would
except for
increase the
antique
amount
vehicles.
each resident is paying, at least compared to this tax year?
Years, yes.
For their property tax, for their vehicle?
Right. And it's, if, I
That
don't know
doesn't
if it's
seem-
in that packet, it's about it works out to about $26 for a $21,000 vehicle.
We had the option
This
to
is-
do that. I'm sorry,
This is
David.
an option to change real value, to change basically what your assessment is on some of your real value. But it's not going to change anything on our budget. I mean,
Oh, Will.
you're going to have the budget, so if, whatever you do with the cars, you're going to make, if it's less, you're going to make up for it on the mill rate. So if you charge people more on cars, then that's just a dodge to get 0.1% less on your mill rate, which is ludicrous. I mean, this,
We had,
first of all, the state seems to me to be just off their rocker all the time on these tax issues. They just do the dumbest things. And this has been a case when they originally decided that you shouldn't tax cars at the mill rate that your town was in. So they separated that out because they wanted to get some votes out of it. That was a vote that was absolutely strictly an election time. Let's get votes from people by pretending to give them something back. That, by the way, the towns are going to have to make up because it's going to take a lot of money out of their budget. And it's just political junk. It doesn't make any sense. It's not going to change anything for us.
the only reason we brought this forth is because there's dollars associated with it, so I thought the board should know. Okay,
But it's
that
not till
option-
2027.
Well, it's this next budget that it's going, the budget cycle that we're going into.
Right.
So-
And so it will be made up for by the mill rate. So it doesn't, except for the people who own
It would
really expensive cars and nothing on their home. They live in their car, let's say. They have a motor home that's worth $300,000 that they live in. I mean, I can't imagine that it's going to make any difference at all. It's pocket change.
People who rent and only own a car on our tax rolls might
Their
see a
address is there.
difference.
So it's mostly going to affect getting more money from the people,
It wouldn't
from
actually.
the rental companies? Is that what it is?
In real,
No,
now,
I
correct me
meant
if I'm wrong
home
here.
rental.
Because of the fact that every year it goes down by 5%, and because they're saying you can raise it by 5%, interestingly enough, if you were to do this, they wouldn't realize any, it would be flat. Because their rate is going down by 5%. If you increase it by 5%, it stays, so they would pay what they're paying now. They wouldn't,
On their existing vehicles.
right, they wouldn't realize the
Decrease. right.
decrease, correct.
For owners.
Correct, for the owners of the vehicles, correct.
For
So
any vehicles.
for any of, yeah, for including commercial and
But the people who rent vehicles, it's the owner of the
the
vehicle.
lease.
It's the
So
renter who pays the
If the
tax.
lease is from, say, New Jersey, you don't pay it's the leasing company that's paying.
In New Jersey.
Yeah, I mean.
No,
so-
they're
Wherever.
pay they pay
Right.
here. So
pay
the
here.
leasing
Company
company
pays
has
it.
the vehicle.
Right.
They get the tax bill from Woodbridge. They bill the person who's leasing the vehicle the taxes.
So the only real advantage to our taxpayers would be for the number of cars that are actually rental cars where the taxes are paid by a corporate that isn't a Woodbridge corporate, it's somebody else that pays those taxes to Woodbridge. So there would be a small benefit to the town from taxes that come in from out-of-state and rental places.
So
It's-
I also think that the difference between how it impacts the rest of the mill rate that you mentioned, if we see more money coming in from motor vehicles overall, that means the rest of the mill rate can go down slightly.
Yeah,
slightly.
infinitesimally small.
It's a very small.
It's a fraction. It's not even
Right.
probably 1 mil. I mean, if it's $100,000.
Probably a
Right.
What is a
I
mil?
just have,
180.
I just have one thing. So the effect of the existing cars in '24 and what is coming out in '25, if you raise it the 5%, they will be the same as last year, as they are the same as this year, and the tax will remain the same. The only people that would be affected are the people who purchased
New cars.
vehicles in the past year that will get the 90% instead of the 85% that the people got last year.
I understand your point, but you're still effective if you would otherwise go down 5%. That's
Yeah.
still in effect. I could be saving 5% on my bill next year, or I could be paying what I paid this year. I'm failing to grasp, what I'm understanding this as is a way to collect more money at a time when our budget went up almost
let's be-
5%. Right?
Let's be clear. We're
So
not
help me to
asking.
understand, 'cause this
We're not
sound-
asking, this is something we have to decide on whether we want it before we go into the next budget
Yeah.
cycle.
Okay.
It's not, we're not suggesting or recommending. As a matter of fact, if it was a recommendation, we wouldn't have done it at all. But because of the
Okay.
nature of it, it's one of those things that needs to be brought in
We
front of
need
the
to talk
board
about it. Thank
so
you
we
for
can talk
clarifying.
about it. This is not something that's being recommended at all, so.
And there's also that possibility that it will not be a municipal option next time. The legislature could say, oh, well, we did it late last time as a municipal option, but now we're gonna change it and make it the state mandate that now you have to do 90%. So you don't know what the legislature does from year to year. And the
Tell me
whole
about it.
point of the
And the-
changing was to make all the
Nobody does. They
municipalities
don't know.
equal, doing the same percentage from the same MSRP, so that people in other towns aren't saying, oh, I'll register in Woodbridge because they only got an 85%, but I gotta pay 90 in Ansonia.
Right.
So that was the whole governor's point way back when this motor vehicle thing started about 5 years ago. And so when this had happened where the municipalities had come to legislature and said, hey, this is too low, and they said, well, it's kind of late, you could do your own municipal option for now, but we don't know in the future, are they going to say, hey, now we just made an inequity and we have to fix that and make everybody do the 90%. So it just, I mean, that's just.
Do you have an approximation of what the difference in these two options are in terms of dollar amount for this 2027 year in terms of what that would mean, assuming that the mill rate is still capped on motor vehicles,
Right.
right?
Right.
At 30,
32.62,
Okay.
yeah.
so at that mill rate,
32.46.
these two options, what difference dollar-wise approximately from, based on what we have now, would that mean in the
Well-
the 27 fiscal year?
The 27, I won't know until the new vehicles come from motor vehicle at the end of December.
Well, if this had happened, if we were dealing with this
Right.
year,
It
what
would-
would it have been?
179.
179.
179. And what is 1 mil what is 1 mil worth?
Probably around 150. Our mill rate, our grand
A
list is what?
million is 1 mil,
It's
so.
1 mil, right,
So it's 1/10 of a mil.
yeah.
So that's 1/10 of a mil, the
Right,
difference.
but,
So that's what you're talking
Right.
about, is 1/10 of a mil on the
The
total
only, the
side.
other consideration, for example, would be, we are also later on the agenda talking about tax relief for the elderly.
Yeah,
In our budget right now, for example, we budget about $190,000 for that. And if we wanted to increase it, to broaden it so that more people can come, we would increase that budgeted amount by whatever we wanted to. For example, let's say we bring to 300, we would budget $120,000 more.
yeah.
So, this would kind of compensate for that in that sense. I don't know that that's the right thing to do from that perspective, and it wasn't a plan. This is something, we just need to decide whether it's want. And Andrea, to your point, I agree. It's, this time right now, it's not something that I'm inclined to necessarily get behind, but it's something that I think the board needs to understand and consider.
So can I ask about the timing, though? Because if there's time, and we're talking about an impact to next year's budget that would start July 1, right? So
Correct.
the budget process for the Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance is in January. We get the grand list in February. Is it the grand list October 1, 2025,
Yeah.
that you provide to us February 1, 2026? Are we talking about trying to impact that?
It could.
Correct.
If we.
Can it? Because October 1 has passed, but somewhere between October 1, when you took in the information about what everyone's assets were, and at what time do you have to determine which method we're using to tax them?
Well, I would say before the budget is set, but we need to have it before the grand list is signed, because I'd have to be signing off saying, this is
Okay.
our grand
We
list
have
for
until
motor
the
vehicles.
deadline is January 31st.
Right.
In order for us to get it. She has to have
Right.
the.
She gives us
so
the grand list
for any
February.
tax consideration we want.
Right.
We have until January 31st. The October is not the deadline.
So the
So,
biggest,
yeah, it seems to me, though, that this is part and parcel of the next budget, and that's the next Board of Selectmen. So I think I'd be more comfortable with letting the next Board of Selectmen make this
It
decision,
has
as
to-
long as it can happen in January.
It has to be done in
January
in the
14th.
form of an ordinance, which means we'd have to decide on it sooner than that.
Then
can't wait until
I think we
January.
let it go, because as you're pointing out, they're going to be in session, and then by the end of April, they may decide, there's going to be a new Public Act 2602 that's going to take it all back, so.
My sense is that saying we're going to let it go for the other board is saying we don't want to do this, so let's just say we don't want to do this, which is,
It is yo-yoing
appropriate.
people back and forth, because you got an assessment, and then you're expecting it to go down next year,
Yeah.
not hold steady.
I don't
So,
think should we just call to act?
we don't, if the only thing we need to act on is if we want to do it. If we don't want to do it, we need no action, correct me if I'm
Oh,
wrong.
okay.
Nick.
so the only,
Well, I
I mean, the
don't know,
only
we wouldn't even
real-
have time to get it into effect, even if we send it to ordinance now, would we? We'd have to come
Yes, we
back
would.
from
But
ordinance, it would have to take,
Yes,
we'd
we
have
would.
to do a public hearing and then wait 30 days. So that's
Correct.
sometime in January.
Correct.
Yeah, so it's timely to do it now because of that. You brought up, yeah, okay.
I've done broad.
You did, I used to know how to talk. You did bring up that the rental companies, which I hadn't thought about at all, but they
So-
contribute something to our
So
tax base.
when I
but-
mentioned rental, though, I was thinking more in terms of
House rentals?
real estate property owners versus motor vehicle property owners. So there are some people who live in town, they don't pay real estate property tax because they rent their home or their apartment.
Yeah.
And they only pay motor vehicle. So
Right.
it's shifting the burden a little. That was my point
I
about
see,
rental.
for those people.
Yeah.
But the other group, if we do receive, for people who lease vehicles, if their taxes, they must pay through their lease to the tax
Part of their lease fee.
people.
Like a year.
So that's still a pass-through, because obviously the
Hopefully.
company isn't gonna lose money
Correct.
on a tax thing. So we don't really, there's no outside benefit. It's all just, it comes to the town.
There's
people
some
in town.
towns there's some towns that it impacts from a very dramatic standpoint. And those towns need that because the impact on their grand list is significant enough for it to make a difference. In our case, I don't see that as being I just don't see
Yeah.
that as being the case.
They have a lot of cars
So
and very
unless,
little real
unless it's
estate.
something
Then
that
we've
somebody wants to
already
make a motion for us to move forward with, my thought is we move on to our next agenda item.
Yeah.
So,
Do we know, did the Board of Finance take this up in their last meeting?
no, they did
It
not.
seems like it's something that they should talk about at their meeting in November.
If the Board of Finance wants to take it up in November and we still have enough time to make it happen, which would take a special meeting,
Yeah.
then they can recommend it to us.
That's what I would like to have their thoughts on it then.
Yeah,
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
makes sense.
All right,
Okay.
Marcia, thank you
Okay,
very much.
Thank you.
Our next item on the agenda is the executive session pursuant to Section 1-2006B for Open Communities Litigation Strategy and Discussion, docket number HDD VC2 6166209S, case name Open Communities Trust LLC et al. Versus Town Planning and Zoning of the Town of Woodbridge et al. I'd like to call for a motion to go into executive session and ask that our attorneys, Nick Belmonte, Peter, Robert, and I don't see Tom Gerard as yet, but at least the three, and would stay to join us in our executive session. Do I have a motion?
So moved?
Second? Second? Any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries.
That's
Thank
what
you.
I've got.
Nick, are we ready? It is now 7:06. We are coming out of executive session. There were no motions made. There were no motions made. There were no votes taken. We will move on with our agenda. Our next item on the agenda is the senior tax credit update. I just left you some information at your station there specifically so we can have just some discussion. What we're looking to do, we have the opportunity to do a number of things, but the considerations that I'd like for the board to take into, the things that I'd like the board to take into consideration are increasing the actual credit amounts themselves, which haven't increased in the better part of 15 to 20 years, and consider increasing the income levels to include more individuals so that more individuals participate. The spreadsheet is specific to those members who are on here as of the last fiscal year that we used, which would be budget year 24. And what it's basically, if you turn to page 2, the income levels are on the first page, first of all. I think that's easy enough to see. If you turn to the back page, the numbers at the bottom will give you the first is the benefit adjustment that we use based on our plan. There's also a state plan that mirrors, that's very similar to ours, that folks can qualify for. And how much folks were able to, how much credit we were given or how much tax relief they were provided based on the state plan. And you can combine the two. And as you see in a number of instances, there are folks who qualify for both and they've been given both. If we raised, for example, the $1,400 for folks who are right now under 55, that would be the 1120 is what's reflected there.
Wait, folks that are under 50?
The folks who are under 5,500, correct.
Okay.
That are under, I'm sorry, $55,000, 5510.
And that's individuals, not?
That's household.
That's household? Okay.
That's household.
Because the other
Correct.
ones say eligible,
Right.
single person married.
Yep.
So
In our case, it's household. For our program, it's household.
it's household, so single person and married? Or
Whatever it is,
anyone
correct.
in the household?
It could be a mother and a son, and it's a total of both.
Based on your tax return, though?
Correct.
Who has been
Correct.
filed with?
Correct.
Okay. All right, so
Okay.
maybe I don't know if we're looking to clarify that here on this. This flyer's not out yet, right? There's a draft.
This is not even a draft. This is just something that was used when the assessor, when we were trying to promote it this past year with the revaluation. This is something we used for that. So
So this is what's already in existence?
this
we're
is the
just
existing,
talking about changing?
correct, correct.
Okay, so it should probably clarify though.
Sounds good. So in any case, what I wanted to reflect is that right now, we provide about $133,588 in tax relief for about 91 people, 91 households.
Wait, is that a line on this?
On page 2.
On the bottom,
Yeah.
in bold.
And in the back?
And that's 91 households.
It's approximately 91 households, correct?
And we have approximately 3,500.
Correct. We have, in residents, we probably more like 33, but yes.
Do we
So-
know
Do
how
we
many
know-
households are elderly though? Because
Yeah, that was my
this is
next
all
question.
elderly.
We don't. I
What-
don't.
Oh, wow.
Marcia can probably give us that, but that's
Okay.
not.
But the
So what we
veterans
did try to
isn't
do
necessarily.
is, obviously, if we just increase the amounts, and I just use $200 for means of, for our purpose of our discussion, and you'll see the column that says $200 increase, that just means that's how much if you were getting 1120, you would get 1320. If you were getting 1400, you would get 1600. Okay, and again, 200 is simply for us for discussion purposes. We could adjust that however we want. But if we were to do the 200, it would increase the total amount it would go from 133,588, including the state amount, it would go to 151,388,
Including the state amount.
including the state amount.
And I'm not exactly sure what the
So-
state amount is already gonna be included next year, or what?
This is looking at, in order to do the exercise, we looked at what was existing, David. You know,
Right,
in other
oh,
words,
we
yeah.
have that in our,
Yes,
in our.
we pay for
ordinance
that,
of the state.
actually. It
Yeah.
used to be the state reimburses for it, but they don't reimburse us
Of
for
course
that
not.
anyway.
They're
Anyway.
good at that.
But anyway, so, you know, the real total credit
State does
is
best.
whatever ours is, plus whatever the state is. So it's not a dramatic
It's one or the
increase.
other.
It's like, and with 90 people, $200, it's easy to figure it's 80.
And the
you know.
state represents sort of a limit, is that what it is? Like you couldn't do more than the state,
You can't,
or you could?
you can't,
Okay.
you can't.
So
So-
it's,
and we would be.
state's just sort of a
Yes,
guideline.
correct. So if we just increase the amount, you're talking about $80,000. Yeah, I'm sorry, you're talking about $18,000. Okay,
Yeah.
90 people, $200, you know, that's all we would be
Yeah,
doing.
18,000. And
All
if you
right.
went to the state, it would be 40,000, 41,000.
It would be about 18,000 still, it's 133.5 instead of 151.3,
Oh, I see.
okay? So it would be about 18,000, just using the round number of 90 to make the math very simple. Now, on the other hand, gotcha. Now, on the other hand, if we actually expanded the program, if we made 90, let's say we made the 93.67, we made that 105. We made 55.70, or whatever, you know, whatever we wanted to do. Then obviously, we don't have the exact math on that because we don't know, and we've asked Tony, we've asked Marcia, we've asked Scrog to see if there's any way we can get some indication as to how much people are making in town. They can give us a lot of information on median income and things of that nature, but not so much in terms of individuals. So it's very difficult to project whether that'll be 10 people or whether that'll be 100 people. So what I wanted to discuss is the potential of, and this is where now, we are budgeting approximately $180,000 a year for this program. In this particular past year, we used 133 of that, okay? But in our budget, we budget for about 180,000,
180.
correct?
Yeah.
So, my thought is if we look at the 151, and we were to double that, and we say, okay, let's say we get 90 more, it would be 300,000, which would mean we would be raising our budget amount from 180 to 300.
It says in the ordinance that we allocate 190.
190 is what, I'm sorry, that's what we budget for.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sheila.
All right,
190.
So essentially, everything that we're talking about would mean we have to change
Correct.
the ordinance.
Correct.
And so we're looking at where we want to fiddle with the various numbers.
Correct.
Mika, do you happen to know from Tony or like what the inflation since these incomes were set, which I'm not sure when that was.
I know it was over 10 years ago, and I can tell you, for example, we did the analysis as far as inflation was concerned last year, and we did it over an 8 to 10 year period, and it was like 33%. So inflation has been significant, and we
Yeah.
haven't increased, nor has the state, nor have most of the other towns who do these types of who have these types of programs. We
But
would,
30
by Marcia's estimation, we would, if we raised the income limits to the degree, for example, that I just indicated, it would indeed make us probably the highest from that perspective. We also, from our, you know, for example, in Scrog, we are the highest in terms of median income. So,
And so that was basically, you just sort of threw out something that sounded about like a 33% increase in the top end salary, right?
yes.
About a third?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Something along those lines. Well, a little, yeah.
A little less than that,
Little less than
but
that,
but sort of something that it sort of looks like inflation.
Well, that's the discussion I think we should have. In other words, and it doesn't need to happen tonight, obviously. This is for consideration. I would like to bring it up at our next meeting because I would like to arrange for a public hearing so we can get this done.
Yeah.
Does
So-
this need to be in by 12/31? Is that?
Yes, no, not by 12/31, by 1/31.
Or 1/31?
By
Correct.
131?
Correct.
At the top, it's up to, available for residents by 12/31/24, so.
Right, that's just in terms of their age.
And
Oh,
this-
okay, got
And the amount we set aside, I assume we can't go higher than what's currently in the ordinance. So if we need to
Without
go
changing the
higher, we
ordinance,
need to-
right.
Yeah.
correct.
Get the
We would have
ordinance
to, and if we change the, anything about the amounts, we'd have to go to the ordinance anyway, so we would change everything. Additionally, what we would do is we would put a cap on it. So if we budgeted 300,000, that would be the most that we would say we would go. And at that point in time, we would determine whether we want, what action we want to take. Do we want to say it's up to the Board of Selectmen to determine what they want to do, giving them the opportunity to say, you know what, we budgeted 300, we went to 325, let's put in the other 325? Or do you want to say we're going to cap it and we're going to leave it capped and it affects the amounts that we distribute as a result of that? And then identify what that is.
And it looks like the mechanism that's in the ordinance now is that the assessor shall, in her discretion, request that allocation back to the Board of Selectmen.
Correct.
Finance, like any other department requests allocations.
Like it would be an additional budget item.
When we
It
discussed.
doesn't look like we'd have
Yeah.
the power to do it ourselves, though. It looks like it
Or
has.
the assessor would refer back. But, and my understanding from the previous discussion was that, as it happened in the last budget, we really haven't approached that limit
Correct.
in a while. So we've budgeted
Correct.
the 180, the 190, and we've been far below that most years. That might change with
That's
this
kind
budget, but-
of odd. I mean, you would think that,
We did a lot
Well,
lot
these-
of news flashes and things
Right,
of
the
that
outreach
nature.
on this.
a lot of,
A lot of outreach to people after,
yeah.
you know.
I
so
just.
We're up from about 80, but we only went up like, 10%, not even 10%.
Yeah.
In terms of people who put in applications. A
Well-
lot of it is, and I can tell you, I've spoken to people directly.
Yeah. We don't really have a
They
lot,
just don't want to. They qualify,
they don't want it.
and they just don't want to
That's-
have to go in and ask and give their financial information, and
Well,
that's,
that will change.
Well,
That will change because
I think of what.
that generation is very different than the
Yeah.
generations that are subsequent and
I agree.
following.
So at any rate, my sense is that we have the opportunity, we can identify what it is we want to do, and we have some latitude along those lines, we have some time to get it done. And so now it's a matter of, how do we want to proceed with this?
So I know this is something, well, I know Dave Lober, a previous Board of Selectmen
Mm-hmm.
member, put forth, I don't know if it was a proposal per se, but like ideas
Mm-hmm.
and really tried to get previous boards to support making adjustments for senior tax relief or other tax caps or.
There are other options, and
Yeah.
we did look at, Tony and I looked at it from a financial standpoint. For example, one of the things that David talked over specifically, he and I talked about it quite a bit,
Recently
is within the last year,
Okay.
not just recently. When we were looking at it previously, is we looked at the freezing, tax freezes, which is something other towns do consider.
Yeah.
As you get to a certain age, and I think, for example, I saw one in particular that said if the years you're in town and your age equal 100, you qualify, kind of thing, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So it's
Add
some
'em together.
people who are in town for a while and are of the appropriate age. It's not just like somebody who's been in town for a year or something
Right,
along those
right.
lines. But to freeze their tax. At the time that we looked at it, the number of people we had in the age category that would have made it, Tony was very, very concerned about it from that perspective.
In terms of the
In
cost.
terms of the cost, the
And
overall cost,
I
that would
will
have to be made
say-
up by everyone else.
I will say so. I was chair of ordinance when this was looked at, and one of the components of what Dr. Lober had suggested was that it not have these income caps, these income qualifiers.
Right.
So that's where it really departs from what we have here. Personally, I'm a little more comfortable if we're making adjustments to the program that we have, and we even if we change these income limitations, so we try to bring it up a little bit further, so that more people. And I think we should be
Yeah,
mindful
it's-
of what Tony has said. We have to be careful. We don't want to oversubscribe to
Understood,
this.
but we're talking about two very different kinds of programs.
Correct.
Yeah,
This is
yeah.
very much an aid program, which
Mm-hmm.
is understandable.
yeah.
What Dr. Lober was talking about, because I was there at the time, as were you, was the fact that if you are interested in promoting aging in place with seniors, the thing that is most important is predictability. And what we saw this year, in particular, with the way the assessments went and so forth, was chaos in terms of predictability. And that's very, very damaging to the people who are elderly that isn't the same for the people who are still of working age. And that was what he was specifically addressing, and not because they needed it, but because the stability tended to keep people in town who we wanted to have in town for their wisdom, for their service to the town, for their
Because they wanna be
availability
there.
for committees and things, and because if they move, they're leaving a three-bedroom home that will soon be filled by 4 kids. And that was a huge net cost to town. So his proposal was not only that gives them the predictability and gives them something that if they've been here for 50 years paying taxes, and for 20 of those years they've been paying 2/3 of their taxes to support the schools where they have no children, that level of stability is a very good thing to be giving them. It's a better thing to be giving them than a $750,000 over 55 home down in the Toll Brothers area, and because they want to stay in their home, and we have other areas that we could be doing things for those seniors. But I think that it's a different program. This is
It is very
clearly an aid program and something that we ought to consider for people who need that. And this is also clearly on the backs of the taxpayers. The other program that David proposed actually probably is very much tax neutral, given that you can easily see that home that is currently occupied by a senior can easily cost this town $50,000 more than the tax that it brings in a heartbeat. So you don't need many
If it turns over.
if it turns over. So when you lose a few $1,000s a year, but you gain 1 times 50,000, that's a lot. And he also had a couple of other programs where that additional assessment could be even done as a lien on the future sale of the house.
That's also another option that we looked at, or that was considered. The thing with the freeze, one of the things to consider is that it's a freeze between revaluations. So if there was a reval like it happened this year, you would still be impacted by
Yeah.
the reval. However, you would keep that for.
That's only a 5-year thing.
Right. So that's what we saw in terms of some of the criteria. You know, it's very difficult to change that because the implication associated with that is really significant. That's like
So the thought here would be to address this more immediately, while, but by doing so, it doesn't preclude us from exploring other options.
that is correct.
We can have more than one
We can.
approach here.
Not everybody does, but yes,
Yes.
we can. We
So-
can.
So the one thing I would say, and I understand where you're coming from, the predictability for the taxpayer.
Very important.
Yeah.
If you're truly on a fixed income, it's hugely important.
And I know we're a very small minority here, but the people on the Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance who have to, and Tony Genovese who has to figure out the impact. So
Yeah.
I think it becomes less predictable on this side of the ledger of how many people would participate, and, perhaps starting with a very small amount so that we can get a handle on it, because my concern would be that this is big changes in how the money's coming in. And so I would want to go slow with that.
We
If
talked.
I were on the Board of Selectmen at the time, which I won't be.
Yeah.
We talked about with the
I
motor
won't either.
vehicle tax, maybe involving the Board of Finance. Is this also something?
I was just,
you know,
I think they need to be brought into this.
So if we wanted to if it were timely to have a joint meeting, or if we met with them at their upcoming meeting and had these 2 agenda items because they're both things that are going to affect whatever action we take up the next coming budget.
Yeah.
Understanding that we need to do things through ordinance, but
Yeah.
it seems like they should be part of the discussion.
And I will also say, I know we're close to the turnover, and then you're going to be immediately into the
Budget
budget
season, yeah.
season. But I will tell you that on the Board of Education, when we were having, after an election, but before the people were seated, they can't make decisions, but they can be in the room.
Sure.
We used to put little chairs for them at the end of the table, and
chairs,
so you could hear from them. As long as you had public comment, you could also
Stools.
be hearing from them. Yeah, little tiny children.
So Mika, has the Board of
They're in the junior
Finance
seats
been
for a
engaged in this
Rugs.
to
They're
date?
aware of the fact that
Rugs
we're
on the
looking to
floor.
do it. They haven't
Okay.
gotten this information yet, and they will get it. They'd have to also be part of that.
So,
Because it's their budget.
yeah, but I mean before the budgeting process, like I think as Steve was asking.
Anytime after next Tuesday.
So,
Well, they'll have their meeting. Their meeting is what, the third Thursday?
Thursday?
So it seems like maybe if we could join them at their meeting. So we don't have to create another meeting, but if we were able to have a joint session
Yeah.
during their meeting to take
Yeah.
up these two items,
Our
So
meeting
you
is
said
on.
this is advertised.
or they could join us at our meeting.
Is that a
This
direct
is
mail?
advertised.
Yeah, I know.
No, this was.
No,
there was
this
a
is
lot of
advertised.
outreach. There was a lot of outreach at the time when the
Amanda.
was all out. It went
Friendly
over a
amendment.
number of.
I'm wondering if,
We did an e-news blast to residents to push for that. That was on our website, and I believe it went out in the mailed out newsletter to every home
It did.
A
around the
newsletter?
time. The one that we mail out, the paper one.
okay, I just wondered what that meant, that's all. Because we don't really know what a person's adjusted gross income is, and so we can't actually
Which is a
know
reason
the
for cap.
impact because we
Which is a
don't
reason
know,
for the cap.
we don't have that
Right.
Right,
information.
there's a cap.
And we
protects us from
can't direct mail to those people, which would be the best way to do it, because we don't know their income, so.
No, but you know their age.
The other thing.
You know
to
your age, I guess you could mail it, you could do it, do we do a direct mail to every person who's qualified by age?
We didn't. The newsletter is just direct mail to every household. So
Yeah.
every household gets.
I'm just wondering if it wouldn't be better, those newsletters get tossed by a lot of people
I
because they're
mean,
just,
that's an option. We absolutely could. If that's
I mean,
all
may-
that would require is
maybe
getting
that
an
would be a
address
way
list.
that we could get a better handle on.
If
who-
we were to change it, yeah, I agree
I
with
mean,
you.
if you change it and then you put a cap on it, then you know what the risk
Yeah.
is.
I agree.
And if you currently went to 300,000 as your example, that's 110,000. We already heard that represents a 0.1 mill rate. That's a 0.1 mill rate probably isn't in the overall scheme of things a huge thing.
The other thing I should mention is this, particularly if we increase it, represents a greater savings than the freeze would in most cases, unless there's a because this gives you $1,600. And you just gotta use numbers.
But
So
it's
if you
for a
have a
different
house-
purpose, so I understand
Right.
that. I mean, these are people who probably need it,
Right.
not people who do their planning based on,
But I'm saying
Not knowing.
if you use similar income levels in terms of your criteria, which you generally would,
yeah.
if it's the same as this, you would probably draw more from this program than you would from the freeze, only because if a $550,000 home, you're paying a little less than $13,000 worth of taxes, $1,600 is about 8%. So you're pretty much absorbing any increase, an 8% increase
Oh, sure.
on an annual basis. So
And we
just rough, kind of rough math.
On those houses this year,
Not
we
to
had-
say that we can't continue to look at doing something more, but this certainly, particularly if we raise it, would help.
Well,
If we raise it $300, the biggest thing is, it's not a real big incremental from what we're doing to what we want to do by increasing based on the existing people. But when you think about it, if we raise it $120,000 or $110,000, if we raise it, that really reflects less than, you won't be able to get 90 people because you'll reach a cap. Because you're talking $1,600 for 70%, 80% of those people, and for, $1,320 for those others. So, you understand what I mean? So just the math.
do you mean you're cutting off people because you don't
No,
have
you're not
money
cutting
left?
off, right.
Yeah.
Well, in the sense of, yes, you're giving them less. If you get more people than that the money represents what you're adding represents, it's more than that because we really haven't used the whole 190 up until this point.
That risk kind of exists already, right? Because
It
if we,
does, if we hit
if we
nothing.
more adequately, as you said, there are a lot of people who just don't want to take it.
Yeah.
And I understand that. But then if there are really people who just don't, for no fault of ours, but if there are people who don't know about it,
Yeah.
who are the kind of people who needed somebody to send them a letter, say, did you know that you are eligible for this? You might be eligible for this tax break, and here's what it entails. That might stimulate a whole different group of people that we don't know about yet.
And the reason I brought that portion of it up in terms of is just because this is reflective of 200. If we want to make it 300, we've done some analysis on that, so I'd like to get from the group what your thinking is on this, so as to put some models together so that we can get you some, and try to get some data. Marcia is going to,
So are you suggesting an income change or
I'm
a
suggesting,
savings change?
I'm suggesting both.
Both, okay.
I'm suggesting both.
Yeah.
I think we should expand the program, and then we have to decide, so what do we do? Is it 105, is it 110, is it 115?
And you gotta model that.
Yeah,
So
right.
it mentions in the ordinance that an annual report will be prepared. I
Mhm.
don't know if it's appropriate to get that. I don't know.
That-
When we
that
say
is
annual, it's
reflected.
December.
Yeah.
So
it
then
would-
we would have a little bit more sense of.
Annual would probably be the budget year, so it would probably be June,
Right,
Yeah.
so then, I don't
So-
know, maybe the one that was ready in June, I guess, the annual report.
which I think that's what this
Those are the
reflected
numbers
here.
from it.
Correct.
Yeah.
So, and I'll
So,
verify.
yeah, I mean, maybe we need to model the different,
Hmm.
So that's
Small,
what I'll
medium,
do.
large.
We'll put it in the packet for November. We'll put the information in the packet in November. We'll do different models, and we'll get some information in regards to seeing if we can, at least, we have a lot of people who by age qualify,
Yeah.
so now it's a matter of by income do they qualify.
Yeah, I suspect that our lack of data is a problem for that. And that's reflected, I think that's reflected in other areas because we rely on data that isn't specific to us. And I know there's been a lot of reliance on the ACS survey data, which is used by SCROG wholesalely. And the ACS data is specifically toward groups like SCROG that are big areas, that have large areas, but have huge problems when you go down to small groups like us, to a town, and it suggests that, our data acquisition or our data management should be something that we ought to think about in the future, is to find more Woodbridge-centric data that could give us a better line on some of these things. Just the one we always run into is everybody says, well, you can't use 25-year-old Rutgers school data for how many kids are going to come to the school because that doesn't work for Woodbridge. And those are the kinds of things that we probably, this is another one. It's just, it's data that we don't have. But I would like to know, if we did do a mailing, what kind of response we would get, because I know we're going to I'm assuming we're going to put it into the ordinance that we put some sort of a cap on it so that we
Yes.
know that our risk isn't
Correct.
millions of dollars.
Not only
Change
put in
the
a cap,
existing
but
cap.
also put in how we could change the cap if it was necessary.
I mean, obviously, it was a good program and it way overdue for change.
Well, it looks like we did change the cap in 2013. And then we
that
also
was-
allowed for a trust in 2014, like, so if somebody their home is in a trust now,
Mhm.
but
Yeah.
they would qualify, otherwise now
Yeah,
they can.
right,
So we've
right.
made some changes to it over the years. I guess it started in 2006, but, yeah, I think it's a good idea to look at what the impact is.
Should be
to Do a
updated.
small, medium, large impact, and then we gotta decide, someone has to decide how much impact we wanna have.
Yeah. And when you say impact, it's the cap.
The bottom line on the town's budget.
Correct.
Impact.
And
Yeah,
the
that would
reason
be
to
a
change
cap
that
thing.
number
Yeah.
is if you're going to do 300, then maybe you want $300 increase and you may increase the cap, I'm sorry,
More people, less money.
yes, exactly. So, see, in my sense, my feeling would be to do exactly that. In other words, try to cast the net broader and increase the credits less. In other words, rather than doing $300, make it $110,000, something like that.
Yeah. That actually, though, that approach would have it, make a bigger impact on our budget, though. So we,
It would.
within reason, we have to do that.
Well, considering whether we want to go 300, 350, you know, that's, I don't know that, from my perspective, want to go any higher than that.
Yeah, did Tony
so-
weigh in on that?
Yes, that's why.
Oh.
What I'm saying is
Imagine where
I
he
reflective.
assume he did, I just,
What I'm saying is reflective of our conversations.
Yeah.
He wants to keep it at around 300. He did, and I said, well, you know, if we cast it a little broader, 350, considering, you know, it's 110 and it'll, and it's only if we need it. You know, same thing can happen with, we get more people, but it still doesn't
Well,
reach cap.
presumably, if the income level goes up, you get more people, right?
You will.
Because that draws in
Yeah.
more people who are eligible. But the people who are still at the lower end are far more needy of
Right. That's right.
it,
You're right.
because
a
obviously it's a
couple of
larger
more
percentage
money.
it's a larger percentage of their income than it is.
So is there
for
any
people.
suggestions for income levels?
Ooh, it's a tough one.
yeah, I feel like I need more information, and I'm trying to think of what information I would even need to.
Yeah, I agree with you, but the
Yeah.
information that I
It-
think would be most beneficial is not really readily
Available.
available.
It's hard to imagine that people even at the high end of that income level haven't really considered there's got to be a better place I can live than this expensive town.
Well, this is a great place to live.
Yeah, some people don't want to.
Not if you can't afford it.
Yeah, well,
I mean, you know, a lot of people move here only when they can't afford it. And if they can no longer afford it, I can understand why they would leave
I bet there's a lot of people who are intending to stay here
at that
all
level.
the way, yeah. So-
Yeah, but
Many of them who I spoke with, I can tell you that.
I just,
Because people like to stay in their homes. Imagine,
We'd like to see them do that, so.
so they go out feet
All right.
first.
well, we need to help that
No
more.
need,
need
we
to
can
do more
move
to
on,
help.
but if you would consider this is something that I'd like to take action on at our next meeting.
Yeah,
So-
take
Can we ask the Board of Finance to join us at our meeting? Just in
Yeah.
terms of timing? 'Cause they're,
Can ask, sure.
because then we could touch on both of these issues, and we'd still have time if we wanted to have a hearing in November or early December to take
Both
action on
issues,
this.
meaning.
I mean, the motor
the
vehicle
motor
tax
vehicle
and this. It seems like they're both things that they should weigh in on. We should talk together. Their meeting is not till the 20th of November, and ours is the 12th. If we meet on the 12th, it gives us time then to act an
Allison,
ordinance.
if we can have Gay
you know,
reach out to them tomorrow? Okay,
an
sounds
invitation.
good. Good idea. Thank you.
for me too, in order to take action on this, not that I wouldn't move forward with something like this absent of greater context, but it is helpful to make it a decision informed, at least in part, by other pursuits that we may or may not consider taking for senior incentives or tax relief. So at least, and I'm sure the Board of Finance, that would be prudent to have
Your input.
maybe a broader conversation at that joint meeting with the Board of Finance to explore things like that.
Right, they might have some ideas.
Yeah,
That's
they
part
might
of
have
this,
some
that's part of
ideas
the
that I think, we would benefit from hearing in this context.
Sounds good.
So the vacuum of what your budget is looking like is the other piece that
Yes,
has to
of
get
course,
filled.
of
So,
course.
you're not going to know
But
that.
I still hold hope we can shed some costs elsewhere. I know.
I know, it's so easy
and
this
I
last
sound
time,
like a
yeah.
broken record about that. But to help for some of these really important programs, there might be things we can adjust to accommodate.
Okay. Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is our CCW Master Plan Next Steps discussion. Just wanted to open that up by saying what there are obviously contained within the master plan itself, some suggestions as to what we would do next, both in terms of quick wins and year-over-year activities. So we want to start at least acknowledging some of what can be done and starting to put together some degree, some sense of a plan for how we start going about the next steps.
Mika, before we delve into what's laid out in this document, do we have clarity on how the people get to weigh in on this document?
Yes, we do, and I believe Nick can respond to that.
Weigh in on this document?
Are we
meaning
in-
what?
Public hearing
Like
or
this
Yeah,
Decision- like
this
this-
is for the people. This is their land. They pay for it. So I'm not comfortable discussing any next steps, like physical next steps for implementation, until the public has had an opportunity to, originally we were talking referendum. And by originally, I mean throughout probably 16 or 17 of the 18-month-long planning process. So then that became a question mark that in our last meeting, you said you were still trying to figure out. So do you have clarity on that?
I have a little more clarity. Yeah, I've been working with the town clerk, with Allison, to get records going back, I don't know, past 75 years or so, where, yeah, there are about 17, 18 instances where the town has held a townwide machine vote. However, only one of those instances involves the implications that you're discussing, which is a potential sale or lease of the CCW property. That was referred to referendum by the Board of Selectmen, by its own statutory authority to do that. So,
Can you tell us the date of that one, though, or generally which one that was?
yeah, that was the December 2011
Sale.
the sale to the Toll Brothers. Yeah,
Okay.
that was what went to referendum.
Okay.
And that's how it got there. It was state law authorizes the Board of Selectmen to call a special town meeting for a matter that it deems of sufficient importance and to then refer it, something that's gonna come before the town meeting, to a townwide machine vote. So although there was a petition filed with respect to another property earlier in this timeline, that was not, the basis for that was rejected. So what I'm getting at for tonight's purposes, and I am going to reduce this to writing, I need to just further develop it a bit further, but, so I have progressed a bit. Last time I said at the very least, we know we need a special town meeting. The question is, can that get pushed out to a town-wide machine vote? I think I'm getting very close to an answer that yes, this Board of Selectmen can make that referral effectively.
Okay.
The open question that I'm not getting closer to a comfort level is whether that type of an action can be initiated by petition. Even though, like I've said in the past, there is statutory authority that seems to indicate under state law that is a possibility.
A petition from the from the
Correct.
public.
Correct.
Okay.
So Nick, are you aware of what the night we did purchase the CCW at the annual town meeting in 2009, there was a petition, but it was ruled that it hadn't come in time. And so it was,
Well, that was how that one
yes.
didn't go.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, there's another instance, that's not what I was referring to just a minute ago, but there's another instance where another petition came in with respect to action taken on town-owned property, and that was rejected for lack of a proper purpose, which gets into some of the reasoning that I've started to explain, where there's, it really depends on what our charter authorizes, it really doesn't turn on state law. There are a couple more broad provisions in the charter that I think is how the Board of Selectmen ultimately was able to vote to refer an item that was going to a special town meeting to a townwide referendum. But there's still a bit of a disconnect between what I'm seeing in that context. So I just want to square what I know is very clear Connecticut Supreme Court law that very much highlights the charter as our central playbook here. And, even though folks can say, well, the charter says you could do this, this, and this, but it doesn't say you can't do this. Well, the Supreme Court has said, no, that's actually not how it works. The charter says you can do this, this, and this, and if it doesn't, then you're out of luck. So
Nick, who could, I don't remember, but is the Board of Selectmen the only group that calls a special town meeting? Are we the only way to get to a special town meeting? Say we wanted to do something like that.
I think it's the Board of Finance as well.
The what?
I don't,
Board
you know,
of
David, I
Finance has
can't
to-
answer that just off the top of my head right now. I'd want to double check.
So what I recall in our charter, this is 4-8 is about the sale of real property, is that it's initiated by the Board of Selectmen, and then it needs to go to a special town meeting if it meets.
Doesn't have to go to the Board of Finance if it's a sale?
It
think they
doesn't
have a
reference it
referendum.
in the charter, but if what I was understanding,
Okay.
Nick, is that you were saying that the Board of Selectmen has the authority to move it to a referendum, but it starts at that special town meeting. We have the potential to move to a special town meeting, and then from there,
Adjourn.
I was just wondering who
Initiate a
calls the
referendum.
special town meeting?
It's-
Can Board of
right.
Finance call it? Can we call it? Can a petition call it? I
So
don't
Yeah,
my,
know.
so my memory of it is both had to act, both the Board of Selectmen and Board of Finance had to act to remove from the call to the special town meeting to go to the machine vote.
And that has to
was known
occur
in advance.
But I think
At
David's
the
point of
special
order-
town meeting, though?
No,
It can't
it
occur
goes
in
in
advance?
advance of that. So you
Okay.
have the special town meeting and people talk, but they know they're going to
Right.
vote the next day.
That's correct.
Okay.
David, to answer your question,
Yeah.
our charter does allow for the Board of Finance to request the Board of Selectmen to call a special town
Okay.
meeting.
Yeah, and so we usually met jointly.
The Board of Selectmen can also call a special town meeting where it deems necessary or desirable. And then finally, there is, a town meeting has to be called where it receives a petition that's signed by enough people who qualify as residents, and that's confirmed by the town clerk. Just give me a minute. That so it's proposing it's really to call it, it's a petition for the Board of Selectmen to call a special town meeting to consider a proposed ordinance or regulation or motion, which is what the charter states. So basically, yes, there can be a petition as long as it meets the requirements that can effectively say, hey, Board of Selectmen, we the public, by signing this petition, think this is a necessary or desirable reason to go to a special town meeting. Please call a special town meeting.
So Nick,
but we
can I
don't
ask just a quick question
need a
so I
petition.
understand where you're at here with this?
Well, we
The
can-
one you're referring to
we're
that
gonna
was
do any
deemed
action,
to, there was a petition, but it was deemed by legal counsel that it did not need to go forward and the Board of Selectmen did not need to call the special town meeting. Is that?
I was speaking to specific to a machine vote.
Okay, but is that the case? We did receive, when David and I were on the board, we received a request to sell 15 acres of the country club. There was a petition. The people circulating the petition intended to force a town meeting, and it was determined that that wasn't being forced. Is that what you're talking about, or is it a different case?
Sorry, what is the petition that you're
There was
referencing?
there was a petition in,
What year?
which is what kicked off this entire process.
2000, it was the previous board, so it had to be
It was a year before
2021.
we ended. I
21.
think it was 21 or
21.
22. December of 21.
December 21.
Yeah. And that did not result in the Board of Selectmen moving forward in that direction, but it is what got us to hire a consultant.
Well, it's what
Right,
made you
and
put the
that's-
RFP out, right?
It was,
Yeah,
yeah, it
for-
was deemed, the petition was deemed to be not valid because it didn't address the right thing. Or it didn't address something that a
It was
petition
asking
could
for that
address.
special town meeting though, and,
Yeah, so
yeah.
I'm not gonna speak to what happened in 21 specifically,
Yeah.
because that isn't one of the 18, honestly, that
Okay.
Yeah,
I have looked
it
at.
really was kind of a, we want you to do this with the property. It
Yeah,
wasn't,
it was
Yeah,
a
so the-
petition to sell a subset of the acres and put and
rest
then,
into a
and then put the
conservation
rest in a conservation easement with a price to
Similar-
buy the
similar to
development
what we have
rights.
here.
I mean, I'll find whatever I can
Yeah.
on 21, because some of the legal memos are important to this and helping me sort of put the pieces together as well. But, I mean, part of the it's not, it cannot be, and the law is not just that, you can file a petition and require a special town meeting whenever the petition meets the eligibility and signature numbers. It has to be for a proper purpose, is what the courts say, and proper purpose is determined by specifically what the charter outlines. The provision as allowing a special town meeting or requiring a special town meeting. The provision that I just read in the 2 seconds that I found, isn't the end of the story.
So from bottom line perspective, just to make sure we're clear, town meeting is required, period. And then the Board of Selectmen can opt with the consent from others, can request that go to referendum. So a referendum is very possible.
Correct.
And the only real question you have is how the petition really goes into that.
Correct.
Okay.
So is there anything stopping us from scheduling a town meeting?
To do
We
what?
would need a proposal.
we don't have
to
a
act on.
proposal,
We don't
that
have
would be one
anything.
thing.
So,
We don't have,
We don't have an
There's no-
RFP out,
there's
we don't
nothing-
have, there's no proposed buyer. I mean, there's nothing,
I see. So there's really no way
we,
for the public to just
well, we can.
weigh in on this plan.
Yeah, I mean, we could have a meeting for that purpose. I mean, if we wanted, I suppose, right? Mika, we could just ask the town to come tell us what they
You have
think.
like a city hall kind of thing where people just come in and talk about what they wanted.
I don't know,
That's
but I
what's
mean,
going on.
there's gotta be some way we can
well,
communicate with the
We-
people.
well, in
on-
terms of this plan, what's on here, if we were to do an RFP, I know it's written as an RFEI in some places, but if we were to want to do something at the clubhouse site, we had a proposal we put out an RFP, we get a proposal in. At that point where we might consider a transaction, whether that's a long-term lease or a sale, that's where we would, do I understand that correctly? At that point, that's when if we wanted to go ahead with something to happen at the clubhouse site, it wouldn't necessarily be for the whole property, but it would be for that portion to say,
It depends
You'd
on
have
what
to
we want to do.
subdivide.
If we're going to lease or sell any
Well,
property.
either
we-
way,
we-
lease or
we
sale.
need- We're going to need a
But,
town
yeah.
meeting, period.
Yeah,
so
Period.
that's when it would happen. So
So-
that decision point would
but-
happen
But
there.
the question
There's-
of acting on just a portion, we would have to subdivide. Is that right? We can't sell
There's a lot that needs,
without subdividing.
I mean, I don't think you need to subdivide before if it's contemplated as part of it, I think you can spell it out
They didn't
sufficiently in
subdivide.
explanatory text.
I know they didn't subdivide when they did Toll Brothers,
Right.
so,
No, it's it's not subdivided.
so.
Well,
But more important,
that's precisely why an easement needs to be on the property. And one of the things I voiced that this plan falls incredibly short on is any language guaranteeing or ensuring an easement is pursued.
Well, that's in the
So-
same way as the RFP in year 2 to 3. It talks about implementing potential conservation.
Potential easement.
There's
And
no
the same, it's
guarantee
in this
this is-
similar timeline as the RFPs and such.
There's-
It's going to take time to put together. I mean, I think we should do the easements and I think we should do the RFPs.
there's nothing guaranteed in this plan at all. This is
So why
just a
is-
concept. This
okay.
is a master plan.
So,
So we have to pursue the elements of
So,
it.
so we should back up and talk about next steps. maybe.
Correct.
That's what we're here for,
Correct,
right?
that's exactly what we're here
So
for.
can we start at least part of the next step conversation with just understanding that final round of input that we all gave? In the very large appendix, each of those other rounds is there, but unless I missed it, I didn't see that final round and the disposition of the final round. So I had a couple of things in my final asks that
They
were
were
addressed,
addressed.
but then some things that don't appear to be addressed, so.
Did you send those separately? I don't know that we saw. I don't know that I saw what you shared.
Yeah.
You sent those
No,
directly
and
too,
I'm
right?
pretty
No,
sure I
yeah,
asked
'cause everything
before
else
this
is in
But it also
meeting.
had like
Andrea
500
sent it
pages
to
in
you
the appendix,
twice.
so.
They
Yeah.
did, the consultant did indeed respond, and I didn't send it to you. Andrea requested that information, I sent it to you. And replied to you, I think, twice now, in regards to the feedback from Cooper Robertson in regards to the last information.
Right. So can that just be, for the sake of all the other feedback is in the appendix, can we just put those documents into the appendix?
Not a problem.
I don't have
No,
it.
not the documents. The appendix is their product. That's their delivery. We can put it in a packet, we can put it online, we could.
So, but
No.
my understanding of the appendix is that they pulled together all of our feedback throughout the months that we were giving feedback, because they wanted it all in one place to document. So that final feedback just belongs there. It shouldn't be in a separate one, to my way
Agreed.
of thinking. It's just a
Sorry.
suggestion.
The appendix reflect any of the changes, any of the input that we provided is reflected in what's in the appendix.
No, the actual input is in there. Are literally
We can
every
add
memo
that
we
if
sent
it's- yes,
that
if
Karen forwarded for us.
If it's in there, we can put that in there,
Starts on
certainly.
page
That's-
397, Board of
Yep.
Selectmen feedback and planning team
Yep. That
responses.
certainly can be put in there, not a problem.
Yeah, and one of the things that I had asked for was to correct the historical document that is also in the appendix, and I don't know if it got lost or there are tiny changes, but I think they're important, so I don't know if they commented on that or if their intention is for that to get done elsewhere, but I think it should replace the pages that are in there, if that's possible. And I don't know if others had final input that either did or did not get reflected, and, I mean, we never talked about that. so
Correct. And
Just to start next
I
steps by
I'd hope
wrapping
that
up
we
the
would.
final step.
It sounds like next steps is making sure those things are in there.
Among the next steps.
these things seem a little out of order
It's
here.
that 2 steps forward, 1 step back thing. Other than that, I would say that a lot of next steps depend on finances.
Not really.
Well, so one concern that I have is that we did receive several months back in the process another packet of, I don't know if you call it pro forma or whatever it was the market analysis stuff, which is obviously not a public document because it's, would have bearing on, real estate deals, so that's being held back. However, we haven't, I'm assuming it's been vetted somewhere along the line. I don't know that this board, the Board of Finance, have a sense of what some of the financial calculations are that are very much part of these next steps. So in order to do some of the things that are in that year 1, year 2 column, including tearing down the clubhouse, doing some of the environmental remediation, going so far as to start the utility work, cost for all that, and where that calculates in and how much that's going to bear on our budget. I said earlier in a previous discussion that, you got to look at where your budget's at. The next steps are very budget intensive, and
I
You
don't
don't think
agree
so?
with you, no. If
Okay.
there's some quick wins that are very important, I mean, we can, things like simply starting a Friends of the CCW or something along those lines for different activities that need to, sport maintenance and some community awareness efforts and dealing with the invasive species and things of that nature. Those certainly don't cost money, and those are certainly things that would improve this property and make it a better asset for our town, that have nothing to do with developing anything or doing anything along those lines. We can start to look to plan in conjunction with those types of activities, some community events that actually take place on the country club, whether it's trail walking, bird watching, whatever it might be, so that, again, bringing the community into the property so as to be able to enjoy it in a way that maybe some have not so far, particularly if we're able to get some action done with volunteers and with different organizations in terms of doing things on the property itself. We can also start to discuss and educate ourselves in terms of what zoning would be best suited for what we want there. Those are, again, no costs associated with any of those activities.
I think you're going to need
And-
cost for zoning. Looking at zoning as I think we're all, we do need legal advice on zoning. So
That's
that
not-
costs money.
No, our town council and our town planner can assist us with that.
They don't
It
work
doesn't
for
cost
free.
additional dollars. So,
Well, but it takes time.
yes, it does. And we have a year, the foundation, as
Yeah.
stated in the plan, the
So-
foundation is up to a year.
Right.
Mika,
So
you're-
we put in this existing budget money potentially to bond to take down the country club building.
We did. Additionally, we've just recently secured a $50,000 grant that would, for Phase 2 and Phase 3 remediation study, so as to identify exactly what it would cost to do something along those lines, and what it would cost, and what other remediation might be required in the clubhouse area specifically.
Right, so things like how the potential grant money and then what is left to be bonded and the cost to bond, those are the financial implications that I think should be set out for the public to understand. As we go through, I hear what you're saying about there's some easy first steps in year 1 and 2, but when we're in year 2 and 3 and 4, there's financial implications. So that is where I think we should sketch that out further. I know
I
that
think
Tony Genovese is very capable of giving us, like, here's how I think it's going to impact our budget over the next 5 years. I expect when you get to capital budget planning, you are going to be looking at these numbers, because we've seen Tony's presentations and they layer in debt, and there's
Tony-
debt involved in this.
Tony is very good at what he does, and he will,
Very, very
and
good.
he's very good at identifying when he needs to do it. What I'm suggesting is that we are talking about next steps now. I would think that the next steps we talk about are those steps that would come more recent than 2 or 3 or 4 years down the road.
I'd like to see the
So-
money projections
so-
though, earlier, so.
We can't see that until we do a study to understand what remediation, we don't know what it'll cost us and how much we need to bond for until we do some sort of an analysis. And that'll tell us what needs to be remediated and gives us an estimate of cost in terms of that.
Right, so in order to
So-
have gotten the $50,000 grant, which is laudable that we have, did we tell them about what the overall cost was that they were going to defray with the 50,000? So there's probably more information than I'm aware of, and that's where I think that if we can start to piece through that. The other question that I'm asking, though, is that market analysis piece that is not a public document. Has the Board of Finance looked at that? Have we gotten any kind of, probing of how much confidence we have in that market analysis? And in order to project incomes
do-
down the road,
I have very little confidence in the market analysis included in this plan.
well, I don't feel like this group, if we're the only ones who have seen it, then I might share your view, Andy.
Yeah, yeah.
Sad.
Yeah, it
That's how I
doesn't
feel.
bring me joy to say that, but I agree with you that we need.
We had, go on, I'm sorry. Andrea,
Well, no,
didn't mean to
I
cut.
think that's a good point Sheila brings up, that having the Board of Finance simple.
Okay,
Has a
Great.
lot of bearing on the budget, and
So-
that's,
we get their input.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, there's things that we should be doing. We should
That
be
we
looking to see
getting
where
their
we can
input
improve
at the
this
same
property.
time we're doing these things. I also.
I don't have a problem with that at all.
I see in year 1, if anyone's following at home, this is page 48 and 9 of the plan. It's organized into these categories. The land stewardship has no mention of an easement in exploration, but there is in private development prepared development parcels. We cannot prepare development parcels whilst not simultaneously exploring an easement.
So,
I mean, we can move, that's in year 2 on that, so you can.
I see
you can-
that
you
in
can-
year 1.
No, I mean the easement bit. If you want.
Yeah, but
I
like
think
this
we
is
should-
some of the feedback I gave that.
So I'm suggesting, because
Yeah.
I have said this, that I think we should move on that sooner. I don't see any reason why we can't talk about that in year one. It's listed here in year two, but I know you're interested in it. I've expressed that I'm interested in it. I don't see why we can't start talking about it in year one.
Can
It's a
we also-
roadmap. It can be, things are going to be a little bit fluid in here, so I agree.
Can
We
we,
can start talking about that in year one.
can we also get a sense of what we mean when we say year one?
Well, that's a
Because we're in,
That's
is
a
it
good
is it
starting
fiscal
point.
year 26?
Year one means from the
one we're
time
in?
that we start to take next steps. That's now.
So fiscal year 26 or
It's-
27?
Year one means,
We need
I
a
believe
date.
year one is referring to 12 months.
Okay.
Regardless, and then we can decide whether, obviously we would decide how we manage that from a budget standpoint, if
Right.
it overlaps or whatever it is.
Right, because we did put some money, or at least earmark that we would go out to bond for some of the costs. To tear down the.
To tear down the,
clubhouse.
to tear down the clubhouse.
Yeah.
Correct.
And-
Obsolete structures is in
Yeah.
year one. It's right, land stewardship right there.
So year one is, there's 7 months left of it.
No.
No,
there's
it's 12 months.
There's 12 months.
I get that.
There's 12 months.
Well,
We're
it's
starting
not
now.
a,
There's no calendar here that we started 4 months or 5 months ago. There's.
So what is the start date of year one?
Now.
Is it October 29th, 2025?
Now we know. I mean, if that's what we're saying.
We're talking
That's
about
today.
next
I was
steps
like,
now.
I know that.
Sounds familiar.
So,
Yeah.
and it's I think you're making it more than it needs to be. It's saying, in the first year, you should consider taking these actions. Consider taking these actions. It's giving us a means by which we can get to some place further than we've ever gotten before. That's what this is about.
What happens
So-
if you don't agree with the place that wants to take you?
Then you say that and you
I've been
you act
saying that,
Well, I
and we
understand.
couldn't even vote on this. So
Vote on what?
on this plan.
It-
What
it's
do you
a-
mean vote on what? On
It's-
this plan that
It's a plan that was delivered by the consultant identifying what we
I make
could
in
do
here
with the property.
Every month,
Right.
more than once a month usually.
has-
So
I don't want to go there.
Yeah, I mean, it has been.
It's going to get into the whole point that it's been characterized as a universally, unanimously voted on plan that this board accepted that we should move forward on. And I don't mind talking about all these things, but I think that's a mischaracterization of what this is.
I don't want to take steps to move towards market rate housing in the way that it's conveyed here.
Well, so the things that we'll be able to do is when we create the RFEI and the RFPs, we can define that those are the next sort of decision points. What do we want that RFP to look like? What do we want that RFEI to look like? We will craft that together too.
So that's going to have big bearing on the income that comes in later on, right?
Yeah.
We've
Which has
been
been-
talking about this as.
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk about great amount of income. Well, we have in here the A1 or the D1 part, which was a few things of 55 plus housing. And then we have this weird amorphous 18 acres at 15 possible residential places per acre. That's 270 residential units.
That's potential if you keep it that way, and that's one of the things that we would discuss in terms of what I said.
Well, we
before.
did, it's not being characterized as a discussion, it's being characterized as a plan, and
It is not.
and when it was a
Yes, it
discussion, when we were talking about buying the property, one of the adverse points toward allowing the property to be sold to a developer was at that point, it was 150 acres, which might, at an acre and a half zoning, bring in as many as 100 units of housing at market rate, which would destroy our school system as it stood at that time, which was 2009. And so as it was,
It's homes, David.
those were homes.
Single-family, multi-bedroom homes.
Exactly,
Yes.
but now we're talking about the potential of 270 homes on one 18-acre
No,
plot. That's what it says. It says 18 acres with 15 homes, 15 dwelling units per acre. That's 270. I can do that math. So that's kind of like a reserved giant spot with no real plan behind it. The plan that's behind it, I'm not sure has really.
The recommended plan very specifically indicates, there's a picture, there's criteria. It very specifically indicates the recommended plan, the preferred plan. 4.39 acres, recreation, blah, blah, blah. D1, the development one, residential development on 7.24 acres, 32 units. D2, senior townhomes, 24 units, 10 acres. Assisted living,
What page are you on,
100,
Mika?
on number
40.
46, I'm sorry, 40.
So at one
That's-
point, though,
I
we
don't
talked
see where you
about
see 270 or-
disarticulation of this, right? So if some of us, and some of the incoming Board of Selectmen that's going to be making these decisions decides the senior cottages along Ansonia Road is, when we look at the pro forma information about, and the market analysis, if we decide, no, don't think we should do it, don't think it's worth the environmental impact for that dollar amount that we're projecting, let's take the D1 piece of preferred plan away. I had been saying all along, we need to be able to disarticulate this so
the
that we
bento
could
box.
take the bento box, yeah, take that.
Why do you
Chicken
have a
cutlet out
sense
of the
that that's
bento
not
box.
this?
Because Mike point blank sat there and said, it doesn't function that way, you can't.
Right,
No.
it falls apart without
It falls
that.
apart,
That
then the whole
income-
plan
that-
becomes
market-
obsolete.
The bottom
The
line
market
income
analysis,
disappears.
I'm sorry?
The bottom line income later on will disappear if you
But
take out those 32
just as equally,
units.
if you put
Yeah.
40 units there instead of 32, it goes up. If you put, it's just an indication. You can't say, this, they gave us a picture in time based on current market data. This is what
And
you could expect
environmental
best. And they
impact.
were very, very clear in indicating, obviously, it's not going to be by the time you get this done or when you get this done that you're going to get those exact dollars, even if you did this exact
But
thing.
Mika, importantly, they limited it to 32 units because of environmental impact. They heard loud and clear from Conservation and TAC and all the other people that said there's a real impact to encroaching on the portion of the property that this Ansonia Road piece would
Okay.
encroach on. So they limited it to 32 units and said that's the only thing that makes sense.
Okay.
That flows through that separate document that's the market analysis. All I'm saying is, I have always wanted to be able to disarticulate it, pull it apart, and see if it could still stand.
Why?
Because I don't think we should build on Ansonia
There
Road.
you go. That's the
And
point.
because
though.
that's what
I'm
we
saying.
were
You
told
don't
That's the
agree
part
with
that
it.
Andrew is saying we didn't get to vote on.
Yeah, that was the whole point, and that's why the process.
I am in favor of building on
Now,
a portion of
how
it.
could you possibly
but
do
not
any kind
everything
of
in
market
preferred.
analysis without taking a point in time?
Of
How could you
course.
possibly do that without saying, this is defined by this criteria right here?
Right, but
This
you-
is what
you
you can
understand we
expect if you
haven't
take
voted
these
on
particular
this.
actions.
This
We're not
board
voting on it.
hasn't
If you
voted
want to
on
change
this.
it, like you said, if next year there's a different board and they want to do
Mika-
something different, it's totally within their
Well,
means
it's
by
all in
which
the
to do
next
that.
steps, as Steve has
Because the
pointed out.
way
It's
it
in
was
that- in
explained
that-
to us at the beginning of the planning process, that of course, the market analysis had to be based on what there's available
Yes.
to work on. But the process, as was explained, was that once that market analysis is done, and that's why we unanimously voted on this scenario, this bento box scenario that had a lot of different things in it, so that we could get that market analysis and make an informed decision on what we actually want to pursue.
Right.
And then when push came to shove towards the end of the planning process, Mike said, no, you cannot do that. Because
No,
if you
you
take
cannot
one
do-
part out, then it messes everything
You
else up.
cannot do that and expect you're gonna, like in this scenario, it says it was found to provide an annual revenue up to the town of approximately $1.9 million. You can't register, you can't say you're gonna take that portion of it out and say that you're gonna continue to, but you still can raise $1.9
We
million.
probably shouldn't have promised that income then, because we're not there yet.
Yeah, but if you
This
do
is
this,
just
this
a
is what
bunch
you
of
can
ideas.
expect. This is.
Yes,
this-
But the
If
whole
we do this, but we haven't,
The whole point of the
we haven't
process,
said we
thank
want to
you
do this.
for the reminder, the whole point of the process was so that the numbers can help inform what we choose and to have a final product that allows us to choose things. Right?
And we do.
But yet, But yet, no, because when it came down to it, we haven't chosen anything.
You know,
Right,
this
but
is-
we will have decision points ahead, and that's where the RFPs and RFIs come in
Yeah,
to decide.
I
It
guess
just would have
what I'm
been better
saying
to
is-
not promise people money that we don't
These are
know.
The
projections.
whole point of it was to do a market analysis so we can understand if we took particular actions, what the return on that and what the return on those actions would be.
So
How
my
can you
frustration
possibly-
here
Yes.
is that we had been building trust. We're spending a lot of public dollars to create this plan, and we were going through a process with the consultant. I am afraid that we've destroyed some of that trust by jumping to the conclusion and this notion that there's a plan, it's been decided, and it's going to bring in this amount of money.
It's a
amen.
plan, and
Amen.
there are projections.
There is potential for
No,
a plan.
it's not been
And it's
characterized
harming
as that
trust.
during the campaign.
I
And
just believe it's
and
harming
I
trust,
think
and it
that
is the
that's been
one thing we
intentional.
need to move this plan forward. I know that everyone is frustrated that we haven't been able to move something forward, but it relies on trust.
This provides us an opportunity to move things forward. We're here to discuss.
There's
we're
been an
here
opportunity to
discuss.
move it forward for 15 years, Mika,
There-
and it
there-
has
this
not
pro-
been
no,
impeded.
There has not been a proactive plan that provides step by step.
And whose fault
things
is that?
We can do. It doesn't matter whose fault it
To
is.
do
Here we
what,
are
though?
now.
To
Well, it's been blamed
To
on the
literally-
Republican
to
Party
literally-
in the
to literally-
literature that I've seen on this campaign.
To literally, Dave, I don't care. I'm not talking about the campaign right now.
Well,
to
blame it
literally-
on me and then don't talk about it, okay?
So,
But that's
To
the
literally-
part about public trust.
I'm literally the only Republican at this table. And so when my party is being advertised as the reason that there hasn't been any movement forward, the obstructionist
David, it can't.
activities of the party is ridiculous. It's
I just-
absolutely ridiculous.
I just outlined.
So
I
what's
just
happened is
outlined-
the campaign is destroying the trust that you spent $80,000 to build up in developing some kind of plan that we might have had a chance to move forward on.
It's more than 80,000, though. It's
Well,
like
it-
243,000.
Okay, whatever it is. I mean,
largely
Substantial.
taken with grants. It wasn't to our taxpayers.
But that,
Okay.
okay.
So,
It's
we
at any
value,
rate,
it's value.
Mike, go on, Steve. I'm sorry, please.
The state's tax.
We've been working on this together for a long time, and there's still a lot of work to do. And of course, it's going to take time to transform this property into a real asset for the town. And I think there's a lot of interest, and I think this plan gives us an
It's
opportunity
gonna
to
be-
take it step by step.
It's already an
It's going to be
asset.
hard to work forward.
But these
It's gonna
aren't
be hard to work
steps.
It's been
forward.
hard.
This
It's
isn't
gonna-
an
if it's being
outcome
claimed
I
it-
want to achieve. This isn't what I was, like, I'm still stuck in the failed process and therefore outcome of this deliverable. I can't move past the fact that this isn't what we were told would be where we are. This isn't it.
We had presentations, we had pictures, there's
Yes,
nothing
and
in
we
here
were
that we haven't
also told
seen.
of a bento box, and that we could, with the information that was supported in those pictures, could say, okay, now that we have this information, I can see there's no value in X of this. So let's take it out. We, Mika, and I would argue, you didn't let us have those discussions. We weren't able to have
Andrew.
that bento box approach.
We
I
did
may
vote
not reflect-
unanimously to send things along to get the concepts
Yes.
looked at so
Yes,
that
yes, you
we have
did.
dollars. We probably do have that,
Yes, we do.
but I think the question
But
is,
then it went off
ultimately,
rails.
as we did just hear from the town attorney, we are trying to get to referendum. At least I hope that's what we're trying to do.
The
And in
only
order
reason-
to
I
get to
don't-
referendum, it has to pass referendum. I was here in 2011 when it was voted down 2-1, the only other previous one that went to referendum. I've been saying all along, you're going to need a plan that you can get a majority of people to support.
So,
We thought
but
we had that in
it does-
2011,
that-
and we turned out not to have it. So destroying trust damages your ability to get anything forward. Right now, we just have paper. We need to get to referendum, and we need the people of the town
Referendum is
to trust
specifically
us.
to make decisions on purchase and lease. We're not close to that.
And it can be shot
This
down.
is an entire
It can be
property.
shot down
How can
like
you
2011
possibly-
was shot
Why would
down.
you possibly discuss the fact that you don't know, that you don't want to see development on here? You don't want to see houses on
Don't
Antonio Road?
misquote me. No,
Whoever,
that's
I'm
not what
just
I've
saying.
ever said.
Okay, excuse me. that
I don't
you
think
d-
it's
you-
worth what
you
it's
don't-
gonna cost.
Okay.
Because
So,
Mika,
but wait, let me finish, please, David. And then what I suggested when we started talking about next steps was stewardship and volunteer programs. I was talking about invasive plant removal programs. What does that have to do with anything? Why wouldn't we want to get started with doing
We
that?
did you
should've
tell
been
that to the
started on
people who are
that
running your
2 years.
campaign?
I couldn't agree with you more, so why are we not discussing that now?
Because there are things I have tried, I'll speak for myself. There are things that I have tried to talk about that in the order of basic operations that should have been talked about before having this conversation. And we weren't afforded that opportunity. And so how do we talk about?
I don't understand, Andrea. We had 8 or 9 Board of Selectmen meetings, each of them taking hours when we spoke about the country club, when we spoke about this property. To say you didn't get it out, or you didn't say what you wanted, or you weren't, or we don't agree with you is one thing, but to say you weren't afforded the opportunity.
I was not afforded the opportunity to talk about the final plan with the board. I was not afforded the opportunity to vote on this plan or to
It's
talk
a
about
plan.
what option should be retained and what should be omitted based on the information that was given to us, which I was told was the point of this process.
We were given a number of different options, and we decided which options we wanted to get market analysis data. What we wanted to get numbers for.
Right.
That's what they provided us. This is a deliverable. They put a report together. This report is reflective of all of the information that we've gone through, all of the input that's been received, and we went through this step by step for many, many months, where there were public hearings, or I'm sorry, there were open houses. There was all kinds of
But
information,
that
exchange
information
of
wasn't
information.
available at the open house, and the public now has seen it, it's published on the website, and it's been promoted all through campaigns, et cetera, but we haven't had the public come in and tell us what they're thinking when they see the preferred plan, when they see the impact of something like Ansonia Road.
The only thing I've told the public is what's been in here, what's in this plan. And this plan was developed.
As if
through-
we've agreed, but we haven't.
It was
That's fine. If you don't agree and you don't want to do that, that's
misleading.
fine. Say it and you're fine.
I don't
That's
think
no
it will
problem.
pass at
I think that when
referendum,
it
and that
comes
is
out-
why
That's
I
fine,
don't
Sheila.
want to send
That's
something to
fine.
referendum that's gonna crash and burn.
That's fine. That's
We're
fine too.
We're not at referendum
We're
stage.
not close to referendum at this point in time.
right,
What
but
what
we're
I'd
also
like to
not
see
close
us
to a
do-
plan if we're not close to
What
a
I'd like to see us
referendum.
do.
It's not an
is
actionable
not-
plan.
And again, what you're saying here, and just the fact that we're having this discussion, I've said, what are the next steps? That's what we want to discuss.
You said
Why
that
can't we
here.
discuss?
But,
Why
but
can't we
what I'm
discuss
seeing in the literature that's
volunteer?
coming to my house is that my party has been an obstructionist for 15 years of inaction by your
I'm trying
party.
to- I am
and
trying
it's
to
being
move
used as a
forward
political element.
right now,
It's been
this
said that
moment.
this is our plan.
But see, that's the issue,
universally
Mika.
and 100% unanimously
You're
accepted.
picking and choosing when you say what you're saying and when you're saying it and to whom, and it's not working.
And
I don't think that's fair, but I'd
Yeah,
like
you
to-
don't think it's fair
I don't
because
think
you're
it's-
in on it.
I'm not in on anything. We've been in these meetings together, David. You've
Folks,
been in on it. Here
if we're not going
together
to talk
working
about
on-
next steps, that's fine.
Yeah.
We'll cut off the discussion at this point in time. We'll move on to the next item on the agenda. We're here to discuss this, to talk about next steps.
So I
And
would
there's no
like-
reason for us to not talk about doing something on that property that doesn't cost us money and will improve the property.
And I
There's
think
just-
we also agreed that financial packet we should bring the Board of Finance in and have some discussion of that. So I hope that we've also accomplished that tonight.
No, what are they going to weigh in on? What are the financial packets?
I want to have a closer look at those financials, those
Fine.
projections,
So
to determine
Reach out to the
in
Board
the
of
end.
Finance and ask them
Just
if they
like
will look
Mika,
at
for
it.
the
That's
past
fine.
2 years, for the past 20 years, we could have been doing invasive species control on this property. So if you want to do that, let's do it. There's no, like, there's no one that would dispute that. I don't think. Task the Conservation Commission.
Thank you.
Let's do that.
Then great, now we're starting to have a discussion about next steps.
It was written already in a plan provided by Deep with next steps. We didn't need this plan to do that. It was submitted by Deep Forestry,
The
where to
intent-
target invasive species
The intent of
control.
this was to provide us a proactive opportunity, proactive guide, plan, whatever you want, master plan, for us to make this property into something that it has not been. We just got the plan in September, folks. We got the plan in September, okay? So I don't care what happened in the past. We have an opportunity to do something going forward. That's what matters.
I think doing the right thing forward matters.
And everybody has their own opinion on that, Andrea, and I respect that. That's fine. I understand that. That's fine. And ultimately, as Sheila's pointed out quite a bit,
Well,
at one point in time, it will go to the public for them to decide. That's fine. That's the way it is. That's the way this works. So let's decide what we can do to move forward with at least some positive action as relates to this property.
Mika, allowing this to be turned into a campaign issue in the way that it has damaged the product. And it's not from our side of the aisle, so I'm just telling you.
Thank you. I appreciate your opinion. Thank you. Is there anything else?
I'd like to know a little bit more about the assisted living. Do you have a developer in mind for that? Is there somebody who wants to do assisted living?
There have been in the
D2?
past been people. I remember when we did the proposal, when we were with Brian and Mr. Sachs, the guy who did Fieldstone, that he was interested at that time in doing something with an assisted living facility on that property.
And did
I haven't talked to him since then, but
I know that our consultants said that there was a potential there, but did they do any market analysis of that specifically? Did they talk about what the feasibility might be in the area, or what
I believe in order for them
potential
to put
penetration of
everything that's reflected in terms of the numbers here, and I think they explained it to us a few times, was done by their people, their experts who
Yeah.
do that type of work.
Well, that's what I'm interested in, because it never did appear in any of the public documents, and then it did appear in this, and it's just, I'm thinking the only reason it could appear in this is that somebody had a developer out there who said, I'm really interested in assisted living. It does seem to me to be a little bit, our two of our top 10 taxpayers in this town
Three.
are assisted living people.
Mhm.
I don't know if this represents any kind of competitive threat to that group, or whether this is, or I don't, my feeling is that I'd be surprised if in this area we have that much demand for assisted living, but it would be great to know more about that at a level that was actionable, because
In the
That's exactly
RFEI and the RFP process,
exactly
that's exactly when you find that
Yeah.
type of information out. As they indicated, when they presented us, a lot of the details you're gonna find and a lot of the particulars you're gonna determine are going to be based on when you put out the information, asking people for that information based on the time that you do it, what's happening at the time that you're doing it, what the market is like in the time that you're doing it,
Yep.
and what it is specifically you wanna do. So, yeah, that's, I can tell you without hesitation
yeah.
that no, I have not recently spoken. The last time I spoke to anybody about an assisted living
Well, that's
facility
good to know.
was what I told you.
think that 18 acres of D2 is very scary, because the next Board of Selectmen may just decide that, they think it's time to put up.
As is the
apartment
case with
houses.
virtually
Well, that
every
would need to go to
single
referendum
decision.
too, so.
Yes, exactly. Anything would have to go to referendum.
Sure.
And every decision that we might want to make, if we don't do the taxes, the next board might feel differently about it. If we don't do,
Absolutely.
it doesn't matter what it is. It may change based on the election. Always been the case, always will be the case.
Amen.
But in the meantime, we have this plan that we took the better part of a year and a half to do. And this is what this is a product. This is what we have. I understand that you don't like it. I understand you don't want housing, or you don't want development on this, or this development, or whatever, or you want more options. There are going to be options. We can discuss that as we go on. We're not going to be doing it in this group for very much longer.
True.
But that's all part of the process. In the meantime, I would like us to be able to, at some point in time, and we can let it go until after the election, to make sure that doesn't play in it. we should and we must start having discussions, whether I'm here or not, about what we need to do at the country club, or else we won't do anything. And that's just should not be an option.
So I do want to just point out that that has been the option, and we do have something of value already there. It's a beautiful piece of property.
Yes.
It could be more beautiful. It could be the jewel of what we all hope it to be. But right now, we're closer and closer every day to having it paid off. And
It costs us
I think
very
it has
little.
value. So it upsets me a little bit when we say, oh, it's not an option. This is the option that we've been doing. And I'm okay with where we are. We are paying down the debt and owning it so that we can control the destiny of it, which is exactly what Ed Sheehy said to the people when we put it in front of them. to
Meanwhile,
vote.
it's sequestering carbon, it's functioning as beneficial habitat, and
And it's beautiful.
the issue, I mean, there's so many issues, we don't need to go down the whole rabbit hole of the history of this property and its mismanagement perhaps, but it could be revenue generating, and it should be. And I think the focus of the next step should be on the most revenue generating potential acreage, which is that of D2. I just don't agree with, the only thing supported really by public input here was the commercial bit, the boutique hotel and amenities, associated with that.
I don't agree with you in that regard, but that's okay. Go ahead.
Well, assisted living, I guess I'm speaking more to
And-
the assisted living. Some of the rec was too.
As were the housing.
So
As was the
I'm with
housing.
you, and in terms of the next steps, doing the RFEI for that is going to help us get there.
Yeah.
And we don't have to do it, when we do those things, they're not gonna be all as one. We're gonna be
So
doing
how
it.
does it work doing a request like that? In the case of, saying focusing on the 18 acres, how do you put together a request like that also incorporates some type of easement?
They're done separately. So an
but
easement is worked on.
simultaneously, I would hope.
I mean,
Because that's the risk. If there's
no, it's not.
acreage permanently protected, then little by little, what's being put out for development can expand.
No, so I agree we need to do both.
Yeah.
But when you're doing the RFEI for the clubhouse area in those 18 acres, it's just for that 18 acres. It's not for the other 93 and 106 and 11 in the other areas. It's just for that
Until the
footprint.
developer says, I actually need it to be 22 acres.
We're not speaking about what the agenda item says. We're about
Yeah.
next steps. So
Well-
my sense is that we're not really going to get into
I
that.
guess
So
my point is that is though the next step is saying, we're looking at RFEIs for that, and when we put it out there, it's for 18 acres. And if someone comes back and says, well, what I need is 25, and we say, well, we're offering is 18, so what can you fit within that? We still have these points where we need to make decisions, and we need to be clear in those RFEIs about what we're asking. And I think we have similar visions of what we might want to see there and what we might be hopeful for there. So
and
we work on that area and see what comes back. And we'll have, instead of just projections that our consultants did for us, we'll have some on the ground information of what's possible.
So I'm going to suggest that we move on to our next agenda item. I think everybody has said what they need to say, and we'll take this up at another time. So with that, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is a town property request for the Amity Group bake sale. Do you want to explain that one?
So the registrars usually handle that because 75 feet outside of the election is under their purview. They've arranged that there's 3 open areas. They came in under the deadline, but Anna and Pennell did have a spot remaining, and because we were having a special meeting, it's an Amity Group, I told them I would see if you all would be nice enough to squeeze it into your agenda tonight,
So all the criteria that normally apply for
Yep,
something
it's
like
the
this
form, and
is-
it's already been okayed by the registrar who's handling the election. It's more of a formality than anything else.
Just out of curiosity, is it an Amity group?
It's an Amity chapter, yeah.
Okay,
It's,
I was confused.
yeah, she has an Amity email address.
Okay.
So it's a
So
teacher that runs a
okay.
program, yes.
Not that it bears weight on the decision.
No, I know,
I'm just
and Josh,
curious.
so I
Good to
had
know.
her fill out the form once I found out I was gonna put it on this agenda for you guys, so that's in your packet.
Yeah, I'm looking at it. now.
And they've already been approved with Pennell and Anna, for the third spot that's available on election day.
I'll make a motion that we approve the bake sale.
Is there a second? I'll second it.
David got you first.
Dave beat you.
Any additional discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? You can hear it's Maria, I hope. So,
In favor, she texted me.
oh, she did. Thank you. All right.
All right, motion to
Next on the
adjourn.
item on the, I have a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Seconded. Sorry.
Thank you, everybody.